So we're going to try to find a group on that big climb. We're going to sit in, get through until about mile 45. And then there's another decent climb. It's 15 minutes long. And then we go down a little bit, and then we'll hit the aid station. And you pretty much leave that aid station and ride a little bit, and you start climbing again. Then there's a 21.5-minute climb. And this is where you start to get into the area where you start questioning everything what you're doing.
I was just going to say, oh, man. Actually, maybe at this point, I don't want to know the rest. I got to...
Too bad. I'm telling you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dirty Chain Podcast, brought to you by Michigan Midpack Media, the podcast that covers the Michigan cycling scene from the viewpoint of the Midpacker. I'm your host, Trevor.
And this is Sheldon.
And on today's episode, we recap last week's Lord of the Springs gravel/mountain bike race that I participated in. Also, later in this episode, I get some advice for my upcoming A race, my
pinnacle race.
Pinnacle race of the season, the UnPaved of the Susquehanna Valley in Pennsylvania. I've been working on that pronunciation.
I still don't have it down. Every time I do it, it's just stuttering. It sounds like an engine failing.
I have a conversation with last year's fourth place finisher. He's going to give me some advice about what I should expect and hopefully get me correctly prepared for that upcoming race. But before we get into all of that, Sheldon, how was your week in the Midpack?
Oh, it was just training rides. I didn't have any events this weekend, or this week in general. Went out, did some, I think it was like 65 miles of single speed and about 40 miles in my bottom bracket bearings completely gave out on me. I'm sure you saw the video on Instagram of me clicking away.
I did see that, yeah.
So got the new bottom bracket cups ordered. They're just threaded, so they're super simple. They arrived about 25 minutes before I had to be out the door for TNR on Tuesday.
Which you rode on your single speed.
Which I rode on the single speed.
That's pretty savage, man. I mean, that's a pretty our TNR, a Tuesday night ride. It's the fast ride of the week, road ride. And I've seen it attempted on a single speed before, but I've never seen it.
It's always been a road bike.
It's been a roads, yeah. Other people maybe have brought a road single speed road bike. But, I mean, you had knobbies on your tires and riding the single speed, and you did all right.
Yeah, I ran the 42 chain ring with a 14 cog in the back, which is the same gearing I ran for Uncle John's just last week. So I knew I had the speed there, but it really turned out just to be three of us really doing the pulls on Tuesday, and it was tiring.
Yeah, I mean there weren't. It was a small group, and one of them was preparing for the Marji Gesick. So I don't think.
And he told us. I mean, we knew. When he arrived that he was going to be taking it pretty easy. And he still did pulls.
Yeah. So did you replace those bearings yourself?
I had them in, crank set back on, and chain tension to be out the door in 20 minutes.
Wow, that's impressive. I usually need to go to a bike shop to get my tube replaced or something, so I applaud you for...
Speaking of which, I think you have a ride about tubes that we could even bring up here.
Yeah, I had a big ride a couple days ago, and I didn't get like 10 miles from home, and I flatted, and I had all the appropriate tools I needed to replace the flat or to replace the flat to replace the tube, and of course the tube that I had in my saddlebag had a hole in it as well, so So I was pretty much
I think
stranded.
someone had your spare good tube.
I think it was you.
Yeah, it's still at my house. I did take it out of the tire. I meant to bring it over tonight, but I forgot it.
No, that wasn't the reason. I had a fresh tube, but I think it just had a hole in it already or something. I don't know what.
Was it one in your saddlebag?
It was one in my saddlebag, yeah.
Now, how do you keep those in your saddlebag? Just open?
Just put them in there.
Wrap them in electrical tape.
Yeah, also I thought maybe I saw this on a Instagram video Matt Acker put up of he puts it in like saran wrap.
Yeah, that's another one I've seen, yeah.
I thought, oh, that's a brilliant idea. I should have done that.
It keeps it from rubbing on the nylon. That nylon will rub through those tubes pretty quickly.
That's what I'm worried about that happened. But anyways, I was stranded. I had to get picked up and taken to a bike shop and change that. But then, like mile 70 or something, then I got another flat.
Same tire?
Same tire, but they were completely separate. It was two. I think I rode over glass in both occasions, and I found where the glass had punctured, and I took the glass out the first time, and then it was just a completely separate place the second time. So it was just like bad luck.
Dude, glass has been getting us lately.
Yeah. So at that time, I was able to replace the tube just fine, and then I was on my way. It was just a giant pain.
You got a century on that day, right?
Yeah, I got a little over.
Nice.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah, preparing for UnPaved.
Yeah.
120 miles, man. The only thing that...
Start racking those miles up.
Yeah.
That's nice. You've been doing it smart. You're doing the easy miles, that low zone 2.
Long, slow distance, for sure.
Smart. Smart.
I'm a little concerned about... There are apparently a couple decent... I think maybe 3 decent climbs. And... decent climbs for Pennsylvania, like they're probably mountains for us here in Michigan. So I'm a little concerned about how that's going to go for a flatlander that I am. But yeah, just trying to get the distance in. So
very nice. Now, one thing that we talked about that we would probably be doing more often, and we haven't done since our very first episode. What are you drinking tonight?
Oh, that's a good point. So I need to go grocery shopping because you know those beers you get like a mix pack and you drink all the good ones and then you have
your desperation beers.
Yeah, like and this isn't a bad one. I'm drinking a Shorts Bel Air Brown. It's good. I guess it's almost autumn, so it
perfect time of year for it.
Yes, exactly. It's a delicious beer, but the brown ales is not my first choice. So this has kind of been in the back of my fridge for probably a year, but it's
You've
decent.
Unintentionally cellared it.
Yeah, correct, and it's aged and drinking quite nicely.
A nice 2018.
Yeah, the
vintage.
Sheldon, what are you drinking?
Oh, I am falling back on the ciders again tonight, and it is another farmhouse cider, and I'm gonna specify that's how it's pronounced. But this is a different one. This is their brunch. It is cinnamon maple, and it's a semi-sweet, which I'm not a fan of sweet ciders. I prefer like British dries. And this one's pretty good. It says pancakes are not included. I
don't get it.
Because there's maple syrup in it.
All of a sudden I get it.
So the ingredients are apples, Saigon cinnamon, Michigan maple syrup, and sugar. But it's good. It's it's not too sweet. Doesn't give you the gut rot like some of the really, really sweet ciders.
Yeah,
do.
for sure. So Sheldon, this last weekend, man, our friends went through
UP hell.
UP hell. If you have been following the podcast, you know that a few of our friends participated in the Marji Gesick up in Marquette, Michigan, and we had been watching their progress all day yesterday, and the progress of them and others that have had ridden the Marji Gesick, and so, between the pictures, between the updates, I don't know. I have this like combination of FOMO and also like, oh, I'm so glad I am not riding that right now.
So I was definitely jealous. Up until I was laying in bed still getting updates. That's where I was no longer jealous. Like earlier in the day I was like, oh man, I wish I was up there. Like that just seems so cool. But then when I was under my sheets last night, hitting refresh, I was not.
I would have much rather have been sleeping last night at 1 a.m. than rolling across the finish line. But hey, we just have to say a huge congrats to our friend Brett Miller, who was here for the last episode, who kind of went through his preparation, his concerns, his
state of anxiety
for this crazy adventure that he and so many other people put himself through, and he finished. I mean,
and he was fresh meat. He didn't know what he was getting into.
And I mean, I think the biggest challenge of this race is to just simply finish. And congratulations to him for finishing. And then other friend of ours, Mitch DeYoung, who has been on the podcast previously, talking about the Crusher. He had a great time.
This was his third year. First year he got his belt buckle. The not last year, 2017.
And we explained this last time, but the belt buckle is sub 12 hours.
Yep. And then 2017 he damaged a rim and couldn't finish. Mm-hmm. He DNF'd. So this year was kind of like his go back and unfinished business.
Yeah.
He really wanted to
redemption,
get back out there.
Right? Like
his redemption ride. And then same for Sebastian.
Yeah. Our friend Sebastian.
I think also 2017.
I think this was his second year.
This was his second, but his first one he almost finished, but his tire was so damaged.
Yep.
He wasn't able to finish. So and he finished this year also. Both of them posted great times. And and big shout out Matt Acker, after 5 attempts got first place.
Man,
I mean, I think he's podiumed pretty much all of them.
Yeah.
But I know he had been gunning for first, obviously. I mean,
yeah.
But
first place in the 100-mile.
Congratulations on your $1 in winnings.
I saw that.
But that was well earned, man.
I saw that you commented on that, like, got that dollar.
You can't even make it rain at that point. It's just a single.
It's
a sprinkle.
One drop. But yeah, huge congratulations to everyone that took it on. To the finishers, to the riders.
Just going across that start line. Congratulations.
Towing the line, yeah. I mean, that is a huge undertaking. So congratulations. Hopefully we'll get a little more information and maybe some of the participants here with us.
Get some first-hand experience.
Yeah. So even though at, say, 1:30 in the morning, we weren't jealous of the Marji Gesick riders, Sheldon, what are you thinking? Are you thinking that this is like a bucket list type ride for yourself personally?
Absolutely, I want to do it. The only problem is I don't see myself having a full suspension bike for quite a while. So unless there's just a change, I mean, because talking to people that have ridden it, you don't even want to do it on a hardtail.
Yeah. It's like an investment. Here's how I look at it. It would be an investment not only in equipment, but also in your preparation.
Absolutely.
The friends that we have that went and did this,
they're all dead.
Yeah, it killed them. Our friends that raced it, Brett, Sebastian, Mitch, they are all mountain bikers and fully competent. And
the focus of their season is mountain bike.
Yes. Which we are not.
No.
And I was thinking about this. If I wanted to tackle this, which I kind of do, one, yes, I would need to have a full suspension.
But your whole season changes.
But then I would also have to focus. I think I would have to really focus on mountain biking just so my technical ability and my strength.
That short, punchy,
yeah.
I mean...
which is interesting. It interests me a bit. But then at the same time, it just seems daunting.
Well, like, we listen to our friends who do this talking about their equipment for it. It's like a whole nother language to me. Like when they're talking about certain tires and stuff, I don't know my mountain bike equipment. Like,
yeah, once they start talking about tires in inches,
even like
their
suspensions, all
yeah,
that stuff is just
travel
so foreign
and all
to
that,
me.
you know.
Yeah. So
it's a whole other genre.
yeah, I feel like that to take on something like Marji, it's not something you can do on a whim. Like,
No.
You can be a strong cyclist. You can't just jump into Marji. I don't think you're going to have a very successful day.
Yeah. But then at the same time,
I still want to do it.
I still want to do it. It's just, yeah, I don't know, something about it. Anyways.
So since we've kind of been recapping everybody else's recent events, I wanna talk about your recent events. You know, something that might have happened on September 14th.
Oh yeah. So I went and raced the Lord of the Springs last Saturday.
And what kind of race is it?
So Lord of the Springs, I think we mentioned this before, it's a gravel race / mountain bike race. I'm not sure exactly.
I feel like this is like Lake City. We can't call this a gravel race.
Sure. I mean, it is, but also the lines aren't blurred. Mm-hmm. You're either on a gravel road or you're on a mountain bike.
Oh, it's one or the other.
It's either one or the other. It's not like this could be a single track or this could be a road. No, it's gravel roads. It's seasonal roads, and then it is Yankee Springs mountain bike trail.
Yeah.
And but anyways, yeah, it was a good race. Weather was great. We had a lot of rain earlier in the week, which created pretty good conditions on that day because it was a dry day. But if any of you know that area, Yankee Springs, Berry County, it is notoriously sandy. And so the rain really helped kind of pack down and control some of the sand and made for a little bit of a faster and a little more rideable.
So I know this is your second year doing it. Last year, you talked about it being just super hot. How was your weather for it this year?
The weather was good. It was actually kind of perfect weather, I would think.
Just ideal, sunny.
I think we started in the 60s or something, maybe ended.
No, they do.
I think it was.
They do waves, right?
Okay, so last year it had Lord of Springs only has been going on for 3 years, so this has only been the third year, and I think each year it's a little different. I didn't do it the first year, so I'm not quite sure how that went, but I think the course was completely different than what it is now. Last year, they had a 38 mile course, and that was all they offered, and it was a mass start. Mm-hmm. And I think the field is probably close to 200 riders.
Oh, wow.
Maybe a little less than that last year. I'm not sure.
So did you start going off onto the gravel roads, I presume?
Yeah. So last year was a mass start. And then one of the big changes they made this year was that they started in waves. Mm-hmm. And they also added a 24-mile option. And then like a 9-mile, just if you wanted to kind of dip your toe in a little bit. Yeah. But yeah, so they did waves. And I think kind of different than Iceman would do, they just took, whether you had raced Lord of the Springs in the past or not, they just wanted you to send in some of your race results, and then they would try to put you appropriately. I was in the first wave, and so when you start, and you have about 5 or 6 miles of just pretty decent gravel roads, and then you immediately kind of go onto a one of these seasonal roads, and you have a pretty decent climb. It's pretty sandy, and it was a good spot where a lot of people kind of it really splintered the group quite a bit at that point, which is good because right after that, then it dumps you into the single track.
Okay. Now, the seasonal road that you hit, was it Sager Road or was it one of the other ones?
We do eventually hit Sager, but right away it is a Sager type.
Esque.
Yes, the Sager-like road, seasonal road, but it's not quite Sager.
Okay.
But it's a similar condition of Sager.
We talked in a previous episode you were going to be riding your Cannondale 29er for this. How much nicer was it going through Sager Road on a mountain bike compared to a gravel bike?
I mean, the difference is crazy. It's so much. It's easier just to get you have such a wider base that it's easier to get that traction, and it's kind of night and day. Actually, you're like, I wonder if I should ride my mountain bike.
Throw a rigid fork on this and call it a day.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, my mountain bike has a lockout in the front. So when I was on the seasonal roads or on the gravel roads, it was locked, and then as soon as I would get into the single track, then I would unlock it to have that suspension, and then get out of the single track, then I would lock it again.
Oh, nice. What tire pressure did you run?
Too high. I don't know exactly.
Got banged around a little on the ruts and rocks.
Yeah, I think I didn't have as much traction as I wish I would have. I overthink it. You get to the front, you get to the starting line, and you're like, I put too much in, and I think it kind of banged me around a bit, and just I should have taken some out right away, but say lovey.
So back to the race.
So
you hit the single track.
We started, and it was the group stayed together pretty much for the first 5 miles. We hit the seasonal road, pretty decent climb, and it broke us apart, but I was able to kind of stay up front. My issue is I'm not aggressive enough right away to get really far up front. And then by the time we got to the single track, I was a little bit kind of far back, and which was okay because I'm not the strongest mountain biker, so I felt okay where I was in the pack. I wasn't...
You weren't making gaps, but you also weren't holding anybody back.
Exactly. And then when we got out of the single track and back onto the roads, then we kind of formed back into a group. And I think by this time, the leaders had already taken off. Like Yankees and all these guys that...
Was there any chase after it, or did they just kind of let them go?
See, I don't even know. I think they were so fast through the single track that was the last time I saw them. And when we got out of the single track and then back onto the roads, we were just in a group of maybe like 15 or something, and we picked up a few guys here and there, but I don't even think we could have caught them.
Yeah.
But
they're fast.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they're super fast. And I think I was telling you this. I would take a pull. I would look back. And I would gap everyone. I'm like, what? And so I really I was like, I can hold whatever I'm trying to do. I could hold a speed that was dropping them. I was like, I can hold this. I can hold this for a long time. And I'm dropping these guys. Like, so what would you do in this situation?
Just break it. Go for the bridge.
I guess, but I didn't see anyone in front of us.
What mileage do you think you were at?
Oh, this was early. This was like 12.
So that's a risky move.
It would have been risky. Maybe
it's kind of funny because I had a very similar thing at Uncle John's.
Yeah.
The two guys broke off the front. One of them ended up, I think, being the winner.
Yeah.
But they were like 75 yards up ahead of us. And I got on front and then started to pull. Looked back. I think I had 30 feet, 40 feet. And I'm like, there's 50 people back there. Why is nobody following me? But that was so early and I was on single speed. I fell back. I was like, I'm not burning myself trying to bridge to two guys on a single speed.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah. Part of me was like, well, one, it's Lord of the Springs. It's not a huge race. So it's like, I guess that can go both ways though. You can say, I'm going to give this, I'm going to break, I'm going to
give this hell.
Because if I blow up, I blow up. Who cares?
Yeah.
Or you can say, I don't want to kill myself. I just want to ride. I don't know.
Well, I mean, you have a pretty good time gap between your next big event. I think maybe it would have been... It's hard to say.
I think I questioned my own, like, how, I was like, I feel really good, but then I kind of questioned how I feel.
We also know how fast good can go to bad.
Oh, instantly. Yeah. And there was a lot of race left, so I think I played it smart in that sense.
Yeah.
That I didn't just take off. But anyway, yeah, I stayed with the group.
So you ended up getting 4th in age group?
4th in age group, 21st overall. Yeah, and we found a group, kind of stuck together the whole time. We did dump back into the single track around, I don't know, mile 20 something. And the second half of the single track kind of was in my mind, because I remember from last year that was the most difficult. There's some really steep climbs in that second half that I remember from last year caused like the whole group around me to get off their bike and walk up some of these really steep things, just because
once you get bottlenecked
you didn't. Well, it was a bottleneck issue, but also it was I've been racing for an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes, and your power is not there. So this has been in my mind the whole time. I'm like, this is coming. I know it's coming. And
it's tough to switch your legs between that fast spinning on the gravel, on a mountain bike especially, because of your gearing, and then you're going to these kind of grinded out punches.
Yeah.
So that's not easy on the legs, that back and forth.
It isn't, yeah. But I was a little more prepared this year, and I didn't have to get off my bike. I just kind of muscled it through and got up those climbs. And also it was funny because a couple friends of ours, Andrea and Jeremy, raced. I think Andrea did the 37. I think Jeremy did the 24. But when he was on, the hardest section of single track was when the group I was in was going through it. And so he was off to the side, and right when I'm muscling through this hard spot, he goes, "Come on, Trevor!" And so it kind of helped. I was like, okay, all right.
It's amazing what that little mental will
it helped, yeah.
It gives you a match.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool. I will say that was cool. I think that was one of the difficulties with their, not the wave situation, but adding the shorter distance. There was some instances like that where some of the front guys from the 37 mile passed the shorter distance, and it happened on the single track, and that got a little difficult.
I mean, that can even get squirreland gravel roads in some of the races that we've done. I can only imagine once you get into that tight single track. And
I mean, and mostly it was, everyone was pretty respectful and asking to pass, and people were getting off if they were getting passed, but yeah, it can be a little dangerous. So I think it was good that they had that option, a shorter option, because I tell you what, I don't know if people are aware of it enough, but this race it's got to be one of the hardest races of the season. And I talked to several people that had done it the year past, and I had to, but we were talking, it was so hard last year, it's equally as hard this year. And I don't know, it just doesn't have, it doesn't get the attention it deserves, because one, it's a killer.
It kind of flies under the radar.
It does fly under the radar. I had a blast. I loved it. All I wanted to do was have a good race, but also I didn't want to kill myself, because racing single track kind of scares me. I'm very conservative when it comes to that kind of stuff. When I'm riding single track on my own, I love mountain biking, but I don't like to push it too hard because I don't want to crash. I don't want to hurt myself. And so when you add a race situation into that, when you have people breathing down the back of your neck, I think it'd be easy for myself to make stupid mistakes. So I'm glad I got out of that unscathed.
Especially because it's right before your pinnacle race of the year.
Correct. But man, oh man, the course is phenomenal. I love it. I've been thinking about this. I've been wondering why it's not more popular, but I think if you want to ride the best roads of Berry County, you're going to ride Barry-Roubaix.
Yeah.
If you want to race Yankee Springs, you're going to do like the time trial early in the season or CPS series or one of these. So there's other opportunities to race in this area. This is another one.
And it's blending the best of two.
It is blending the best of two, but maybe that's like a blessing and a curse. Maybe people see that and they're like, I've done it. But I want to tell you, if you haven't raced it, you haven't done it. It's great. And I really think, well, one, it needs to be on a mountain bike.
Yeah.
I saw quite a few people. I saw more people this year attempting it on a gravel bike than I did last year. And, I mean, chapeau to them, man. I mean, I can't.
There's a fantastic picture that our friend Rob took. Rob's a photographer that does a lot of the events in the state of Michigan, and he took a great one of you, and it looks rocky and ruddy. I mean, that's I wouldn't want to take a gravel bike through there.
Yeah, that was on the single track on the front half of Yankee Springs, and it was super. That was kind of on a hill, on a rocky hill, where a lot of people were getting off to walk.
No. One thing I was kind of thinking about, actually last year, kind of brought this first to my thought, and then talking to Sebastian McKenzie after they did Arcadia this year, is so Arcadia and Lord of the Springs, essentially you want to do a mountain bike. How do you feel about those being in the gravel race series?
That's a good question. Well, I guess the question is, how are we going to define gravel? And is that above our pay grade? I mean,
I mean, that's something for us to discuss. I mean, it's just our opinions.
So Arcadia, I'm not as familiar with.
I haven't ridden it, but after talking to the two of them, they're like, absolutely a mountain bike race.
Yeah.
And I think there was only one person there on a gravel bike, and they were on a 3T running mountain bike tires.
Sure, yeah. I am okay with Lord of the Springs being called a gravel race. Although I think they're pretty transparent about it. I think they call it gravel and mountain bike race or something like that. And I guess maybe where it's part of the gravel race series. So now you're part of this series that encompasses straight ahead gravel races like
Uncle John's, which is basically pavement.
Yeah, exactly. And you come off with like a 23 mile an hour average. And then this.
And there's no race in between these. Literally, you're going from Uncle John's to Lord of the Springs.
Yeah. There also, I mean, it could be the percentage of gravel road versus single track for Lord of the Springs was, I mean, the majority is gravel roads for sure. I think that extra element of single track is what makes it
different,
unique, and quite frankly, difficult. I mean, it's so. I don't know. I mean,
well, and we talked about this in episode 5. With Colorado, this is kind of the great thing about gravel is this broad spectrum of different surfaces, different bikes, tires, whatever. And it is really a bring what you brought. I mean,
so maybe I think where this is exactly with Alpine. Is it possible with
a gravel
bike? Yes.
But you're not going to post.
Is it ideal? Time. No. But then I don't know. I guess anything's possible on any bike. I mean, if you go down that road,
my Roubaix would not make it through Lake City.
Yeah. I don't know.
Which then I used my Roubaix at Uncle John's last year, and that's gravel. It's like you have these different races that sure fall under similar categories, but the spectrum's night and day.
Right.
But then you have everything in between too.
Yeah. All I know is I'm glad I rode a mountain bike. And it
allowed you to stay competitive in the group.
Yep. But yeah, I mean, you have like road teams that like are there.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's like it's just
It really is a blending of two worlds.
yeah, which I think is cool. Yeah, all I can say is Lord of the Springs. If you're thinking about it, you should do it. It's a great course, and it'll challenge you for sure.
Yeah. So that's the second to last race for the Michigan Gravel Race Series. Next up, we do have the Michigan Mountain Mayhem up in Boyne City, which we talked about in episode 3. I was hoping to make it up to it. I'm not going to be making it up just because the O Canada ride is the following weekend, so I can't be up north 2 weekends in a row.
Yeah, between O Canada and then Iceman coming up.
Yeah, I'm gonna be up north a lot.
Yeah.
So I will not be there. I don't think you're gonna be there.
No, I won't be able to make it.
Kind of a shame. I've heard great things about it. And then following that, October 5th is Hart Hills up in northern Michigan. It's again kind of in the Cadillac area. 2 of our friends did it last year. They spoke highly of it, really enjoyed it. I haven't done it personally. I really wanted to do it this year. But that is going to be the weekend that we are doing our quad century up to Canada, so I will not be there this year.
Should we talk about that, or should we hold off and talk?
Let's hold off. We kind of covered it in the last episode.
A little bit.
The hints there, we're kind of talking a little bit here.
Yeah. So we'll discuss your
O
Canada, which I'm thinking about joining you for the front half.
There's room,
or at least
in Sebastian's car.
At least the first 100.
Up to Michigan. Or up to Lansing.
Up to Lansing, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like 105.
Yeah.
That'd be good. Because it's going to be at a pace that's going to be beneficial for your training.
Right. And also I can just kind of
just dump off and
stay. I can stay on the front and pull you guys.
So well, you guys don't think we can do it? I'm
kidding. You have a long time. You have a long day. Or days. Well, yeah, let's cover that a little more in depth.
We'll get to that later. Probably post.
We'll do a recap of it or something.
Yeah. I'd hope so. That's a big ride, not to recap. 100 weekend, did 400 miles.
I did a small 400-mile ride.
But how was your weekend? But yeah, so then after that, you leave October.
Yeah, I will.
What did you?
My big race is the race is on Sunday, October 13th.
Okay.
And I will head over to Pennsylvania the Friday before, so the 11th, and I'm camping there, and so yeah, the race is on the 13th, UnPaved, and I'm looking forward to that. I think the only other person I know from Michigan that's going is Matt Acker.
Yep.
And we will not be riding together. He'll probably win it or something.
Now, for a second-year race, it's bringing out some heavy hitters.
Yeah, I mean,
Ted King.
Ted King.
Matt Acker.
Myself. Not to joke. No, I'm excited to experience it and then just kind of spread the news to fellow Michiganders.
Absolutely.
And maybe get a crew to go next year or something.
Yeah. So Trevor, you've been, preparing for the last few months for this race as it's the pinnacle race of your season. And you were able to sit down with somebody who was the 4th place finisher of the inaugural year of UnPaved.
Yeah, I wanted to know a little bit more of the details of the course, what to expect, what I should be preparing for that maybe I'm not. So you're doing everything I wouldn't do. Exactly. So anyways, yeah, here's some brotherly advice. Okay, joining me now is Brady Gibney, Philadelphia-based athlete, cyclist, runner, co-owner of Cadence Cycling, and 4th place finisher of last year's inaugural UnPaved 120-mile race. He also happens to be my older brother. Brady, thank you for indulging me with this time and having this conversation with me.
I don't think you've ever said so many nice things about me all at once.
Well, don't get used to it.
I'm calling Mom and Dad.
Before we begin our conversation, I think you were telling me you have a beverage to open, so...
I do have a beverage to open. I've been waiting about an hour late tonight just for you.
I appreciate that. What'd you open?
I am drinking Conshohocken Brewing Puddler's Row. It's an ESB. Conchi Brewing sponsors our race team, and they're putting a restaurant next to our bike shop. We're going to have a garage door in between so you can walk back and forth. It's going to be pretty awesome.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
So that is a Philadelphia beer, and I'm going to drink a Michigan beer, a Two-Hearted. So here we go. All right, now that the important things are out of the way.
Let's get to business.
Yes. Brady, so it was last year about this time when you were preparing for the UnPaved and telling me a lot about it, and then you raced it. You did pretty well. And I think it was because of that experience that I thought, I'm definitely signing up for it this year. So thank you for that. But now that we are just a few weeks out, I think I need to know as much about it as I possibly can.
I think I hid enough from you to make sure you signed up before telling you all the real deal.
Oh, well, great. So before we get way into it, just give us a little bit, if you can, a little bit of a rundown of like what exactly the race entails, where it's in the Susquehanna Valley. I can barely say it. I don't even know where it is. What part of Pennsylvania are we talking about?
So it's pretty central. It's probably... it's about 2.5 hours from Philly Central, northwest. So you're pretty center of the state. And, the Susquehanna Valley just kind of runs through the center part of that state. And the race starts in Lewisburg, which is where Bucknell University is.
Okay, yeah.
So it's just this quaint little college town kind of feel to it. And that time of year, it's the leaves are changing. It's just it's pretty incredible to like leave Philly, and in 2.5 hours you get to this place, and it's just picturesque and everything you dream of.
Yeah, incredible. So tell me more about the valley itself, and especially as the area. You didn't grow up far from Michigan. We grew up in Indiana, but the hills around here aren't very.
aren't very
exactly.
Exactly.
But is this like Appalachian Mountains? Is it on the outskirts of the mountains? I think anything that I'm going to see is going to be a mountain for myself. But
totally, absolutely. I also. That was the first time I've ever been there. So I think that we are getting there, but not quite to proper Appalachian Mountains.
Okay.
And kind of the far end of the course, you do some of the same rides as the Transylvania Epic, which is a mountain bike stage race, also put on by one of the promoters, Mike Kuhn, who I used to work with.
Okay.
And so it's like if the Transylvania Epic is in the Appalachian Mountains and they kind of scoot to the east a little bit, this one starts east of that, and as you go west, you kind of hit the eastern part of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. And I'm looking at your Strava file from last year, and it says there's about 10,000 feet of elevation gain. So, yep. This is no joke.
This is no joke. And I counted earlier today because, 10,000 feet, I think I understand that, but living in Michigan, it's like you hear that, and I think it's probably hard to grasp that. So the race took me 7.5 hours last year. I did 150 minutes of climbing, if I add up all the Strava segments where I'm of big hills, not just like the little rollers and things, but there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 big hills that total up to 2.5 hours of climbing.
Holy cow. I was thinking there'd be like 3 climbs, but
nope.
Okay, great.
That's right. Yeah, so the race was started by 2 guys, Dave Pryor and Mike Kuhn. I met Mike Kuhn on the second day when I moved to Philly. He worked at Cadence, and I walked in as like a noob bike racer, and eventually we worked together and became friends, and I heard he was helping put on a race. And Mike and Dave are notorious for creating routes that they always like to say, at some point you will have the perfect bike, and at some point you will have the worst bike.
Yeah, that is like a typical kind of gravel adventure racing quote.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
Yeah. It's terrifying.
And they are true to their word. Absolutely. So last year they announced the race, and some of the guys who I work with started asking off that weekend to go do it, and then a few more people until finally everybody had asked off except for me and my 2 partners. And we said, well, we're not going to work here and let them go race. We're just going to shut the shop down and all go to do it together. And it was a fun experience to do it with, I think there was 8 of us total.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And we didn't really ride together the whole time, but it was just a fun experience to be there and all kit up together and everything.
For sure.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you'll have the perfect bike for some of the time and the wrong bike for some of the time. So let's talk a little bit about the course itself and what it entails. I mean, this is a gravel race, so I assume we're on gravel roads. The gravel roads I'm used to are Michigan gravel roads. What is a Susquehanna Valley gravel road like?
Sure. Having just been out to visit you, and your roads are like a lot of hard-packed dirt roads, right?
Yep.
This is more gravelly, like gray stone, a little looser for sure, and less traveled, I would think. You are like kind of in the mountains, and so these aren't main roads that I think a lot of people ride on.
Yeah.
But it does vary. The first 10 miles or so is on kind of almost like a rails to trails type ride, and it's neutral, and everybody's riding 2x2 down this flat rails to trail path.
Okay.
Which is hard because we started at 7 a.m. or something early like that, and it was 50 degrees. It was chilly, and you don't want to wear too much because you're going to get hot later, and so it's like a half hour of shivering. Can't warm up because you can't go fast. So that was a challenge. But
it's like a 10 mile. Is it neutral? Yeah, it's a neutral rollout for 10 miles.
I don't. Yeah, I mean
something like that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's basically a neutral rollout till the first hill, which happens at 15 miles. Right. Like everybody's riding together. Nobody's trying to go off the front or anything like that.
Okay.
At the beginning, because that first climb took my group 23 minutes to go up it. Right. So it's like there's no use. There's no use of trying to do anything before that.
Looking at the elevation
yeah.
summary, that one looks like the worst.
It's definitely the longest, but I was new to this as well, right? And depending on how your legs feel at that moment, right? It's like you get halfway up that thing, you're 10 minutes in, and you start questioning everything about your life. And either you question it because everything's falling apart already and you say, oh my God, I have more than 100
miles left.
Or you feel great and you just look around and say, I can't believe I've been climbing for 10 minutes and we can't even see the top. And this is amazing. Like, I am in the middle of nowhere and the path is, only 10 feet wide and you can look out and see everything. It was pretty awesome.
So last year, at that moment, were you of the latter?
I was, yes.
Okay.
I had good legs that day. I had a fun time, and that won't happen this year. So,
yeah, I was gonna ask how your training's going.
Well, I did 50 minutes this morning on the trainer again. So, I've put together a couple decent rides lately.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to put in maybe 100 or 75 on Wednesday. Got a couple weeks to go.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you'll snap back into fitness and smoke me for sure.
I don't know about that. You've been training pretty hard.
So, so let's go back to like the type of gravel. You said it was kind of gray stone. Are we talking like sharp rocks that I'm gonna flat on that I have to be worried about?
I think that for most of the, let's say, like gravel road sections, they're pretty well maintained and nothing that's going to cause any problems. What we have though is we have gravel roads, and then we have gravel paths, and then we have, I don't know, like true mountain bike trail.
Like single track?
Yeah, for sure. So
pretty rugged single track?
Yes, there's two sections that are pretty rugged. One is pretty early on, before you hit that first big climb, and it's not very long, but it's probably half a mile, and it gets kind of gnarly to the point where some people are getting off their bikes, and which isn't a big deal, but as you're trying to like move up and not miss the front group,
it
gets a little hairy for sure. So you hit a little section at the beginning. After that, rails to trails type of gravel, almost more than the terrain. It's just a lot of people are still there because we haven't hit the first climb yet. So if you're stuck behind a dozen people have to get off, you have to get off.
Yeah. Okay. Now I don't want to admit this, but not just to you, but to anyone that's listening. But I don't run tubeless on my gravel bike.
Yep.
And I'm wondering, the closer we get. Here's the thing. The other day I went out for a big long ride, and I flatted twice. Totally separate reasons, but it was just both small like glass punctures, which if I was tubeless, it would have been totally fine. I wasn't tubeless, and it was a giant pain.
Yeah, I think that is probably a good idea. When we get a little down the road, maybe mile 70, you'll understand why that is pretty necessary.
Are you going to explain that more? Or are you just going to like leave that as an ominous tease?
I'm not going to tell you anything else. You're going to be surprised come race day.
Great. Okay. All right.
That was a joke. Hey,
okay.
Thanks for having me on. So one little section at the beginning, nothing too hairy. You hit the first climb, like I said, 20, 22 and a half minutes is what I did, and I averaged 290 watts for that time. So I will not be doing that this year. So we're going to call it somewhere between 25 and 30 minutes for that first climb.
Sure.
That's a long time going uphill, for sure. It's an average gradient of 7%, so it's no joke.
Yeah.
Like, it's the real deal. There is a pretty gnarly, twisty-turny gravel descent afterwards.
Okay, so this is going to be my next question. We're talking about the climbs, but every time we talk about a climb, I'm thinking to myself, we have to get down these things. And,
That's right, for sure.
And I'm a little concerned about, the technical aspect of it.
For sure. And so that one in particular is I remember it quite acutely because in my group was Allison Tetrick, the gravel world champion. I actually raced with her on a composite team, or didn't race with her, but we were both on
teammates,
a men's and women's team for a stage race in Minnesota one year. And
I didn't know that. Huh.
Yeah, that was like 10 years ago.
Okay.
And so we were chatting on the way up the climb, and I went first down the climb, and I almost took her out because we hit a very sharp turn, and I kind of faded from one side all the way to the other side, and I heard her yell at me in the back, and I go, oh, that's just exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to take Allison Tetrick out of UnPaved and be known as that dude. Luckily, she was able to avoid me and just sailed right past me. But
oh man.
So if we have any strategy, it is this:
take out the lead woman.
Take out the lead woman. No. So we have 15 miles until this first climb. You climb for 25 to 30 minutes, and then there is a short little descent, and then there's honestly 20 miles until the next big climb.
Okay.
So the next big climb is at 45 miles in, and it's almost all downhill, and it's almost all paved road. So if you find a group, if we can find a group to stay with on that first climb, then it's smooth sailing for, the first third of the race is almost done.
Oh yeah.
Because we can just sit in. I mean, you can take pulls if you want. I'll be recovering. But, I think a lot of people would probably think it's stupid to dig too deep 12 miles into a race or whatever. But if we can put in a good 30 minute effort, it's going to really pay off because we'll be with some fast people and be able to get to mile 45.
Yeah.
Pretty unscathed.
Yeah.
So then.
So you're talking about we'll find the group that Ted King's in, and we'll stick with him, and okay,
absolutely,
cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, but yeah, I love that strategy, or I will be all about trying to find a group early and stay with the group.
Sure.
I really like that idea.
Yep. Because if not, at mile 20, we're at the bottom of that climb. And then, like I said, you're on your own for 25 miles. And if it's just the two of us or a handful of people, you could save a lot of time sitting in on a group of 20 or 30 people right there,
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I think I was asking you this a while ago, but being that it's 120 miles, Are you? I know you didn't wear a hydration pack or anything like that.
Right.
Did you carry 3 bottles? did your group that you were, the front group or whatever group you were in, take advantage of the aid stations? Will this coming year, will people stop at the aid stations? I mean, it's a whole new year. It's a whole different race. So
Sure.
Do we rely on that, or do we carry water with us? I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, so we skipped the first aid station, and
Which was how soon? And
yeah,
you're saying like 30 miles or something, or
I think that's right. It's pretty early on, and we had kind of got to the bottom of that climb, and everybody's rolling, and nobody had any interest in stopping yet.
yeah, that makes sense.
So we skipped the first aid station. We definitely stopped at, so the full loop is the 90-mile loop with an added little loop kind of on the far end. And so everybody stops at the far aid station. And if you do the full, you stop there, you get your stuff, you do this other extra loop, you stop back at that same aid station. So you can
have I'm looking
twice
at
as much stuff. Yeah,
the map right now. So, but even at that point, you're still it looks like you're still 50 miles from Lewisburg, right?
So you hit the aid station at about 53 miles. You do the second loop, or the extra loop, and you finish, and you're at 80. So you got 20 miles to go.
Okay.
Until the end. So, but you get aid station 50 miles in, and then at 82 miles in, and then there is another aid station at about 100 miles that had beer, which I didn't stop at. But so we
can call that one at the time, right? Like, maybe we'll stop for the beer, maybe we won't, depending on how the previous 100 miles went.
Absolutely. For sure. My hunch is we will be stopping. They also will have a chaise lounge this year.
Oh, yes, I heard that, and that's fantastic. What a
it would be so fun.
Well, and local Michigan racer Matt Acker, who is a salsa athlete, he'll be there as well. So I think that's kind of.
So we're gonna try to find a group on that big climb. We're gonna sit in, get through until about mile 45, and then there's another decent climb. It's 15 minutes long, and then we go down a little bit, and then we'll hit the aid station. And you pretty much leave that aid station and ride a little bit, and you start climbing again. Then there's a 21.5-minute climb. And this is where you start to get into the area where you start questioning everything what you're doing.
I was just going to say, oh, man. Actually, maybe at this point, I don't want to know the rest. I got
too bad. I'm telling you. So you you hit this climb. You've gotten through the feed zone. And then you're just kind of like bombing through this beautiful dirt roads, and it's just awesome. And you make a turn, and you start climbing up this gravel section, and it's starting to get steep, and all of a sudden you see like the gravel climb just keeps going, and you see an arrow to the left, and you look, and you're like, oh, that doesn't really look like there's anything there. Make a left.
Hold on, real quick. What mileage are we at this point? 60-ish or 70?
Not even 60.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So you're not even halfway. And you make this turn, and in reality, it's probably a half a mile, but it felt like it was 15 miles. I mean, the climb is only 4 miles long, and I know that it wasn't like this the whole time, but you hit this section, and there's just all these baby head rocks everywhere.
Ugh.
So it's steep enough that you kind of need to be out of your saddle, but you're sitting down because you're hitting these rocks and you're going to fall. And it's very challenging. And the only reason I think you don't stop is because walking would be way worse. And none of us knew how far we had of this or anything, so you're just kind of all zigzagging all over the place, trying to find a line and not pinch flat. And you eventually get out of it, and you get to take a breath for about 15 seconds before you start descending. And you start descending on
the same thing.
The same thing.
The same type of road.
Yeah. And again, my mind has exaggerated things, but I swear there are 10 steps on this descent. And it is a section of baby head rocks you have to go down. It flattens off a little bit. And then there is a dip where some sort of drainage happens when it rains, and so there's like a giant pool of water taking up the whole path, like the size of a car, right? And you just kind of close your eyes and go through the puddle because you have no idea if this is 10 feet deep or 6 inches deep, and there's no way around it. So you go through that puddle and you hope that there's not a log sitting in the middle that's going to send you sailing. And then you just do it again, and you do it again, and you do it again. And it just feels like it never stops. I mean, it took me... So the segment is called Got Stands on Strava.
Like stands... sealant.
Yes. So
that should be the answer to my should I go tubeless.
That's right. Because if you don't have stands... you will flat. If you do have stands,
you will flat.
You still may flat. And there were a couple guys who went down pretty quick and left me very quickly, and both of them flatted. So I am not a fast descender, but it took me 33 and a half minutes to go 6.5 miles downhill.
Holy wow.
So, yeah, it just felt like it never stopped, and you hit the bottom, and your feet hurt, and your hands hurt, and you immediately start climbing. As soon as you finish, you start climbing, and this is like a 15-minute climb, and you think, oh my God, I'm only 65 miles in?
So I'm kind of part of me wanted to say, why didn't we have this conversation 3 months ago? But now I'm thinking maybe this is exactly why you didn't have this conversation with me 3 months ago.
Because I wanted somebody to ride with.
Oh, geez. Okay, well, what...
But that's it. So that's the thing. It is 30 really hard miles, and then it becomes awesome again. So you bite the bullet, you get through that section, and like you honestly, like I said, so that section you are touching the Transylvania Epic course. So
okay. All right.
that climb I talked about, the segment is called Transylvania Epic Stage 4. So you can imagine that segment is done on people with full suspension mountain bikes. And we are doing it with gravel bikes with 38C tires and things like that, right? So
right.
It's going to be difficult for sure, but you deal with it, and we got through it. Everybody got through it. Some people didn't fare as well as others. Some people took a swim, and then you're drenched at 65 miles, and you still have 55 to go.
What?
But yeah,
You know, you mentioned the drainage ditch, but if it's raining, are we even more screwed, or is it still doable? I don't. Should I just not even think about that at this point?
let's just not think about that.
Okay,
No,
great.
yeah.
All right.
Why would it rain? It's not. No.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, that could be very, very difficult with all those rocks. It would be so slippery. But at that moment, I'm not changing my tires or anything like that. So
Sure.
we will look at the weather and
Probably just ride accordingly, I guess.
exactly right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's kind of the fun of it, right? Like,
Sure.
you never know what to expect, and
Well, if it was a local race for myself, and I saw that it was raining, I would probably just say, not this year. But because this has been something that I've had on my calendar for 8 months or whatever,
sure.
there's no way I'm not going to attempt it. So
Right. And we're camping, so if it's raining,
it'll be a double. There's gonna be no reprieve.
that's right, absolutely.
Well, if it's raining, I'll pay for a hotel.
There you go. Fair enough. At least the night after, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, it really is. I mean, there are still 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 big climbs after that section.
Great.
But the hardest part's over, the most technical part's over, and you really get into what I would think is like kind of the best part of the race. I was by myself at that point. I was feeling good, so I probably have an exaggerated view of what actually it was like.
Sure.
But it was really fun. That last kind of 50 miles for me was just, I was like in a dream, and it was just keep pedaling, and you're up and down and up and down. And, we were joking afterwards because I'm one of the worst descenders on the face of the planet. And I had a top 10 on one of the descents in Strava overall. And it was like, there's only one reason that would happen. That's because I'm on cloud 9 just enjoying myself,
Sure.
But it really is, it's beautiful and a really fun time.
I mean, this is the whole reason I wanted to take it on. I knew it would be challenging.
Sure.
I heard some of the stories. I mean, this seems a little more than I had thought of. but no, I mean, I wanted to challenge myself, and then also I was looking forward to just the experience of the location and the time of year and all that. So I'm pumped, man. I mean, I have a healthy amount of respect for the race and fear, but I'm pretty confident that if I'm just smart, we're smart. We can ride together. We can. Yeah, I'm pumped.
Yeah, absolutely. It's gonna be a fun weekend for sure.
Cool, man. Well, hey, Sheldon's not here, but this is the end of the podcast. Do you want to help me out with the closing?
Oh boy.
We got
I do.
So which part do you want? You got the keep your chain clean, get your chain dirty, see you in the midpack. Which part do you want there?
I'll do the see you in the midpack.
Okay. Brother, Brady, thank you for talking to me and shedding some light to myself and maybe hopefully other Michiganders about this amazing race. I'm excited. I'm excited to spend some time with you, but especially excited to race alongside you and so many others. So, as always, Keep your chain clean, but get your chain dirty.
And we'll see you in the mid-pack.
Beautiful.